Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21. Then one from the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take heed, and beware that the covetousness of one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses." Then he spoke a parable to them, saying, "The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I'll do this. I'll pull down my barns and build greater, and there I'll store all my crops and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God." Bitterness, anger, and resentment had been gnawing away at him. He felt it was unfair. His dad had died, and since then his relationship with his brother had deteriorated. He felt cheated by his brother. He felt that his brother got a larger share of their father's property than he should have done. We're not told the details of the dispute. We don't know who was right and who was wrong in this family feud. We do know something of the attitude of the man involved. And this is what was important for what Jesus had to say. He obviously had some idea of the authority of Jesus. He had heard of this great preacher who spoke with the authority of God, and he came to him hoping that he'd be able to sort out the problem, that he would rule in his favour and his brother would comply. Perhaps his brother also respected Jesus, so he asked Jesus for help. He hoped Jesus would have a word with his brother and tell him to give him a bigger share, and he would be happy. But Jesus didn't respond in the way that he hoped he would. Instead, he told a story. Perhaps there's something that had happened before Jesus came to earth when he was with his Father. Perhaps a story that Jesus made up to illustrate the point. There was a rich man. He was rich to start off with. He already had enough and more. Things seemed to have gone well for him. They were soon to go even better. He had a bumper harvest. Everything went right for him. He was ecstatic, set for life. He was going to enjoy life, have a good time with all his comforts and all the money. He was thinking to himself, well done. But God's words to him were very different. While he was congratulating himself on all the great things he had earned, God was saying to him, you fool. That very night he died. His life was over. He could take nothing that he had accumulated with him. It's at this point that I must admit I'm a bit of a miser. I really don't like spending money. Just ask my wife. So it hurts a little bit when Jesus pointed out this man could take nothing at all that he had hoarded with him at the end of his life. He could take nothing with him. Reminds me of a song from my hometown. Can't take with you when you go. No fi. But why did God call him a fool? He was a fool, but he put his possessions first. He measured his life by what he had. His priority was this life and the comforts and glory that it could bring. He relied on the things of the world, material comforts and joys, to bring him satisfaction. He wanted everything for himself, and for now. His priority was to accumulate, get more, and to keep what he had for himself. But it all to be a tragic waste of time. Waste of time, energy, and ultimately, his life. He should instead have concentrated on things that last. The man in the crowd and the rich fool might have thought of themselves, might have looked as if they were in completely different situations. Financial matters had gone wrong for the man in the crowd. He felt that he was being cheated, treated unfairly by his brother, while everything had gone right for the rich fool. But Jesus knew that the underlying attitude was the same. The way they saw the world was the same. Their emphasis, the centre of their existence, their first priority, was their material wealth. Elsewhere, we read what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 to 21. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I wonder what we think of when we hear the word treasure. Do we think of chests full of gold and gems and jewels? Last week, Rhonda was talking about a different kind of treasure, treasures in jars of clay, precious things, the life of Christ, found inside ordinary people. Treasure is anything that is precious to us. Our treasure is the thing that is most precious to us, the thing that motivates us more than anything else. We all have things that are precious to us. We all have something that is our treasure. Our treasure can be many different things. But where is our treasure? On earth or in heaven? That's a question of vital importance. If our treasure, if what motivates us beyond anything else is of the kingdom of heaven, then that is where our hearts will be. That is where our first love will be. But if it is on earth, then we'll be earthly minded. If our treasure is on earth, if what we count as most important to us is something earthly, then we'll lose it. It will not, it cannot last. Nothing on this earth is forever. I'm now 51. It's possible I'll live to be 102. But it's more likely that I've had more than half my life. But if the kingdom of heaven is what motivates us, if it is Christ who is the centre, the thing that motivates us, and our treasure will last forever. I lived in Stockport for a couple of short periods and went to the Salvation Army there. And in the wall of the Salvation Army Hall in Stockport used to be written in large letters, "Life at its longest will soon be past. Only what's done for Jesus will last." It's very true. Do we put all our energy into things that will last, or into things that will not last? That's our question for today.